Um,
All right, you all
are we
set?
good?
Yep.
Cool. It is 7:31. I would like to call this meeting of the Bridgewater Town Finance Committee meeting to order. First order of business tonight is approving the minutes, I believe, from last meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So made.
Second.
That was Dr. Bennett was the first, and who was the second? Oh, was that John? Was that you?
John. Yep.
Wonderful. Josh, can we do a roll call?
Yes. Dana,
Yes.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Wonderful. Next we have public comment. I don't think we have anyone here from the public to comment. So I'm going to
Nope, I
move
don't have
on.
anyone.
Excellent. We have no old business. So that brings us to new business. And first we have Order OFY 26-065, which is the acceptance of the grant from the Student Awareness of Fire Education in FY 26. Justin, any background you want to give us on this? It seemed pretty run-of-the-mill to me, just an award we got from the state.
Yep, spot on, Dana. This is an award that we got from the state. I think we've gotten this annually, Lori, if I'm correct, for quite a long time. Most communities who apply for it do get these grants, but it's an education program for seniors and members of our community. So obviously we want to take advantage of that grant.
Yeah, I would just add that this town's pretty lucky because the fire department, they have a fire prevention officer too that really, helps with the SAFE program and does a lot of outreach with the schools and the senior center and well, obviously a senior SAFE grant, but they really do spend a lot of time and put a lot of thought and energy to the residents of the community. So it's a great program.
Wonderful. Any questions from members of the committee?
No. Nope.
No questions.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
So made.
What are
Second.
you? Oh, are we motioning to approve, just to confirm?
Yes. Yes.
Or to accept, I guess, would be the correct motion, right, Josh?
It's to recommend.
To recommend. Okay, so that was Derek Bennett, and the second was John, I believe.
Yep.
Wonderful. Can you do a roll call, Josh?
Yep. Dana,
Yes.
Derek Bennett,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Derek Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Wonderful. And that brings us to the next item, which is the transfer order for cash capital leasing obligations, order OFY 26-66. Justin, any background you want to share with us on this?
You're muted. Sorry, Justin.
The rookie mistake there. Holy smokes. Have a nice conversation with myself. I apologize. I know I'll have Lori speak to this a little bit, but I know we got a few questions regarding this, and we'll be more than happy to address some of those questions. We thought it'd be good to talk to the committee as a whole. But this is our annual capital leasing obligations. I'll let Lori give the introduction.
Thank you. And so yeah, we did get a bunch of questions from Chris Raymond. So we were gonna answer to you, but then we thought it would be best to just kind of talk about it in the committee, and I'll send the the email back to you. But as far as the leasing program, so we put before you the annual capital program, and in the capital program, there are leasing payments that are outlined for replacement of vehicles and such. So in this particular order, there are the projects. If you go back to the capital plan, you can see the project number, but there's a fire engine and an ambulance, for example, the first two. These payments are the fourth of a 5-year lease that we have with this vehicle. So I'm guessing we're in the fourth year in 26, so these were from 2012. But so these vehicles, you know, a lot of cities and towns might go outright and buy the whole vehicle. We found that by leasing them, it gives us a little flexibility to keep on improving our fleets, especially like with the fire and the ambulance. You'll see below in this order that there is another leasing that's beginning for another pumper truck and another ambulance. So we're trying to keep things so that they're not falling apart, because a lot of the costs of replacing and maintaining some of these vehicles, because the wear and tear, I mean, these vehicles are on the road, just like the police vehicles are on the road 24/7, you know? So I think the town's done a good job at trying to keep the costs down and keep the vehicles on the road rather than in the garage, you know, being maintained. So I think that was one of Chris's questions of you know, where are they in the payment plans and in the queue? The ambulance and the fire trucks, we don't expect to be funding any new leases in the next 2 years because we think we've covered it. So that might have been a question for some of you. But yeah, if you want to go through the capital plan, or for some of our newer members like Derek, I can send you a copy or an updated copy of that plan, and you can kind of see how that flows. But I can speak directly to you, Chris, if you know there are other questions that you might have relating to the payment. So
So Laura, just to clarify, so each one of these have a number. So you were saying the fire equipment, the ambulance, this is the fourth year of a 5-year lease. Is that how you read these?
yes,
Okay.
fourth payment, yeah, in a 5-year lease.
Okay.
Mhm.
Dana, looks like Rig has his
Yes.
hand raised.
Greg?
Thank you. I guess I'm just curious to know, Laura, you had mentioned, sort of like wear and tear and things like that. And I realize that these other vehicles are not here, but I'm just going to ask a general question with respect to the vehicles that we're renting, especially for police. I would imagine outside of the chief of police or the chief, our fire chief, are any of those vehicles used, or does any of our police officers have full access to those vehicles where they're taking them home? And I'm just trying to understand what's happening with our fleet of vehicles when each officer clocks out.
No, that's great question. And to clarify, these leases are for the bigger vehicles, like an ambulance is 450,000. So the smaller vehicles, like the police regular cars, we purchase them because it's more efficient. And the town has you saw in the capital order that we funded, I think, three vehicles, and it was 200,000 in the last order. So we do buy out the vehicles, like like the police chief's vehicle. I think he's one of the only, him and maybe the I don't know, the lieutenant or one of the lieutenants may take the vehicles home, but the other cars don't go home as far as the police goes that I'm aware. But we outright buy the vehicles that are $50,000 to $70,000. These leases really are for the highway plows, the fire engines, the ambulances that are well over, $400,000 and up. So that's why we lease these particular vehicles. But the regular vehicles, they're on a different maintenance plan, and yeah, they are purchased outright.
I appreciate that. I guess the main question was really about any town-owned vehicles. And again, outside of the police chief, the fire chief, I would imagine, just want to kind of understand You know, do town employees have full access to those vehicles where they're taking it home and things like that? And if not, then what I'm hearing from you is that outside the chief and maybe the captain of the police, that town-owned vehicles, once my shift is over, I leave it with my station and I go about my business, and use my own vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna let Justin
Yeah.
speak to that, but I was talking mostly to the police, you know, the chief and the lieutenant, so I didn't,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
get into the others, so I'll let Justin speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would say, Rick, that's not the case for all vehicles. There are some vehicles that are stationed here. Just as the example you said, you know, once an employee is done with their vehicle, they leave it at town hall. There are some employees who have had, you know, arrangements in place where they are able to have a take-home vehicle. And in particular, you see them in places, it's generally public safety, like DPW, for example. I'll use our DPW director, for example. They're on call. Our water superintendent is on call for evening calls and so forth. So they're allowed to take a take-home vehicle because they do have to come in at, you know, certain times. So it really depending on the employee and depending on the position as well. But I kind of understood what you were saying. Lori was speaking directly to police, so I don't want to make it misconstrue that employees don't have access to take-home vehicles sometimes. Not all of them, but some of them do.
I appreciate the clarity. Thank you. I was just more or less thinking about wear and tear and costs and things like that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Derek? You're muted.
Rookie mistake number 2, I guess. Thank you, Justin. So anyways, I guess I'm looking at these 2 trucks here, I think, so this is the last payment, 5 out of 5. Is that
Correct.
right? So like, when does the replacement strategy for those vehicles start?
So that's also a great question. So these were these are 2 big plowed trucks that we had that are now 5 years old. So last year, the beginning of whenever we just voted for the last capital, we voted for I think it was $10,000 or something that we voted to buy a used snowplow. So the highway superintendent, he keeps his vehicles meticulous, and he was letting us know that, you know, last year he got the opportunity to buy a used plow that was in very good shape from another community or something, and we appropriated $10,000, I think, and he did a trade or something, and we ended up getting a really good used one. So you'll probably see, not next year in 27, maybe the year after, we'll probably have a new order for a new lease for a DPW plow.
Got it. Okay.
But sometimes we might do it a little early because they take a year now to get. They put them on order, and of course we can't order one without at least getting an appropriation in place. So sometimes you might see, you know, a lease payment being appropriated, but that payment doesn't actually start until we get the vehicle. And so sometimes it might be like a year out, but we're already getting it paid for, so.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
Rig?
Sorry again. I was starting to like this hand raising thing. Thank you for suggesting it,
It
Dana.
does them in order too, so multiple people can put their hands up and it like puts a little number next to you. It's very handy.
Interesting. So I just wanted to just go back to the maintenance part of this. And I realized obviously things break down. Do we have how do we maintenance these vehicles? Like, do we have an in-house auto mechanics person, or do we outsource it? And then if we do outsource it, how often do we look, sort of compare rates, and compare, I guess it comes down to rates, compare rates to see if we can get, those types of maintenance on the vehicles cheaper.
No, that's another great question. So, you know, especially with these leased vehicles, I mean, they're in good shape. They don't really have a lot of problems because they're new, right? But once we own it, we do have in the DPW and the highway department, for instance, we have a mechanic and I think a helper that they service all the highway trucks and vehicles and things like that. I can let Justin speak to, what we plan on doing in the future. We would like to consolidate it and do some kind of in-house thing, but we're just not there yet. We're looking at always how we can best, fix the vehicles at the lowest cost. But we are always cognizant of, whether we send it out, like the police vehicles, some of them get sent out, some of them they fix there, or, we use local, or we made an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Easton for a fire truck maintenance program because they had a mechanic who was just working on fire trucks. So we were getting a low rate to fix any kind of fire vehicles or things like that. So we are always looking at ways to make sure we're spending our best dollar to fix anything. But that is one of our goals, is looking out to in-house all of the maintenance. But I can let Justin, speak to that more.
I thought Lori did a good job. I mean, I can't really add too much to it, but it is something that I've talked about with the team since I've gotten here. I have a vision or a hope that we can have an internal team handle all of our maintenance in town, or a majority of it at least. Because right now it's largely for highway. There's a chief mechanic and a mechanic, and they largely do all the highway apparatus, which is a lot. But I would like to see if we can take all of our fleet and have it managed in-house. But in regards to your question, Rig, as Lori did mention, we've looked at other communities, look at intermunicipal agreements to offset some costs generally. So we try to be strategic about that. We look to save costs, and that's part of the reason why we're probably exploring a look to bring everything in-house as well.
I have just two more questions. The follow-up question to that is, as you guys are thinking about, sort of how do we sort of bring this more internal? Are any of the vocational schools part of that discussion, Southeastern, BP, particularly given that, we send students there and we're paying an abundant amount of money. And of course, from the training perspective, helping those students get the experience. And then the last question that I have is, are there like state grants and state funding that's available to purchasing some of these vehicles, or this is just straight up taxpayer dollars, loans, etc.?
Yeah, I'll tackle those questions, Rick. I'm going to be very simple on the first one. Yes, something we're looking at. Two, the last thing is, if FinCom remembers, we had a Green Communities grant that we accepted, and some of it was to offset a vehicle purchase. So I definitely won't imply that there's a whole bunch of different grants to just help offset all of your vehicle purchases. But whatever there are opportunities for, we're definitely taking advantage of them so we can mitigate the cost and the impact on our free cash, and mitigate the costs on our taxpayers. So we're looking at every opportunity, whether it's just grants or whatever, to offset the cost, Rick.
Yeah, and I can just add to that, we also, when we purchase vehicles, we're using the state bid list, which is, widely vetted and the lowest prices that we possibly can. So we're not only, going to those vendors that have already been through, procurement and all that, but we also, when we do these kind of leases, they are tax exempt lease purchases. So, we follow, all any kind of savings and every kind of process that we need to. So,
Thank you both.
John?
Hi, thank you. So a couple things I just wanted to ask. I know a couple times you've mentioned. So are these lease to owns? So
Yes.
like these are all lease to owns, okay. And I know you had mentioned previously that there's no plans in the 1 to 2 years of any new leases for the first two. I mean, we've got between 5 items here, we've got just over $400,000 of capital that is going to be done in 2 years. Are there plans on, are there any plans for that for, you said there's nothing right now. What are some things that money could be used for that would be necessary to continue, making sure that these are on the maintenance schedule? And is there any sort of a refresh rate where, every 10 years you're looking at something, or what's the refresh rate on purchasing a new fire apparatus? Or is it just an as needed basis? Is there any sort of a schedule for those capital allocations?
Well, there definitely is a schedule, and it is in the capital plan. I know, I said that there was no new leases for a truck and an ambulance because I think, we're good with those two. I think there will be others coming your way, but I'd have to look at the capital plan to just see what, is coming up in the next year or two. But these
Sorry,
payments
Lori,
are,
1 second. Josh, can we make sure all our new members have a copy of the capital plan? I think that would just be a good resource for everyone to
Yeah.
have. Because I think we
Yeah.
voted it before the most recent crew joined.
yes.
Sorry, Lori. Thank you.
No, that's fine. That's good. I'd love for it to, I might have even said I was gonna send them to the new people, but I hadn't. Or maybe I did, I can't remember. But I do know if you look at the capital plan, you'll see the fire was looking to get a tower truck, and that's over $1 million. So, Chief says every year, oh, we need a new tower truck. And we're like, okay, yeah, that'll be great. So we try to prioritize what is our best use of funds, but we are always looking at that capital plan and updating it. And I can, defer to Justin, how he sees that.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like an actual lease. So every 5 years, this starts over again. So that was the one piece that I wanted to clarify just for my own edification.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
So some communities do that, John, where they're just constantly leasing, but they don't lease to own. So we do lease to own. We just find it more valuable. We've been able to refresh our vehicles a little bit more frequently as necessary. But we put a caveat, for example, ambulance. Just like our police cars, they tend to get a lot more mileage. They've got a lot more usage. They're on the road quite a bit. So even though we say we don't particularly see something the next year or two, we think we're at a good spot. You never know. We've had some vehicles be in accidents. You have to replace them. So we have to adjust. We try to be fiscally conservative. Obviously navigate in a reduced free cash allocation. We fund this from our capital. So this allows us to stay refreshed. But it's a good question. I'm glad someone asked that. It is lease to own. It's not, lease every 5 years and get a new vehicle all the time. That's not the case.
Thank you.
And the capital program, Josh can send it out, but it is online. We put on the front page budget dashboard for everyone that's on FinCom. On the front page of the website, there's a tab specifically says budget dashboard. If you click that, you'll get the general fund booklet, the enterprise booklet, budget and financial reports, and the capital improvement program right there.
Any further questions from the committee? Do I hear a motion to recommend?
I'd like to entertain that motion to recommend.
Second.
Okay. Josh, can you take a roll call?
Dana,
Yes.
Derek Bennett.
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Derek Sylvia.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. So next item on our agenda is the FY27 water rates. Justin, just to start us off, while you're going to give us an intro here, can you just remind us what the previous rates were and what the increases are?
A very good question. I don't have my packet right in front of me. I can pull it up and let you know. It was in Josh. This might be better to display because I know we sent out the fire presentation. Hold on, let me pull it up. And then I can show you exactly where you can see the previous rates and see what our rates are now. Let me look all. And Josh, if you beat me, if you can put it up, that'll be helpful. Otherwise, I will get to it. Water and sewer presentation. 1 second. All right. Here, I'll do it. Give me one. Josh, I'm sending a request to be able to share.
Yep, it should let you know.
Okay. So we sent out this presentation that Raf Tellis gave to the town council. Hopefully, I know everyone's busy, but you've been able to see this or you've been able to see the presentation. Further context, Raf Tellis is the third party. They do a lot of rate water and wastewater infrastructure. They look at rates. They give recommendations. For the past 2 years, we've utilized Raf Tellis because we wanted a professional taking a look at this, independent, understanding the challenges we have here, the infrastructure improvements that we need to make. We wanted someone to take a look at that. So on this page of the slide, which is number 3, which is the fiscal year 27 recommendations, you can see what the previous fiscal year was, which is fiscal year 26. You can see what fiscal year 25 was. The yellow is the highlight, which is the fiscal year 27 rate recommendation. And also for future purposes, these are what these rates could potentially look like in the future. For example, we were spot on with our rate for this next year, what Raf Tellis did. In terms of revenue, we met our targets this year. That was a part of that presentation. I'm sure you saw, or if you listened to the presentation that gave to the council. So, these rates that are fiscal year 27, these were what were shown last year as well. Dana, I probably would stick there, and I think we're gonna have questions, so I probably want to get into the questions more than anything.
For sure. I just appreciated the context. When I was looking through the packet, I wanted a frame of reference, and so thought this would be helpful. Derek?
Also in there, just for
Oh,
people to know, sorry, I see a hand being raised. That's the same situation for sewer as well. That's part of it. They did it for water and wastewater, so you can see the same structure for sewer rates and so forth on there. So there's a lot of different little bit of information in there. I think it was a good presentation. I hope you're able to watch the video of it as well. There's a lot of different questions that were engaged by the council.
Derek?
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I was able to watch some of it, not the entire presentation. But I guess my question is, when you say we were 100% the goal, what's the goal? Like, because I'm hearing and have listened to a lot of the issues with our water and what we need to spend to kind of get us up to where we need to be. Like, when you say goal, what's the goal?
Yeah. Well, one, the water system is an enterprise system. It's funded by the users. And so in the end of the day, you don't want, for it to be successful, you don't want to have to augment revenue that's raised with general fund revenue. So this is all entirely funded by water users. So one, you want to have 100% recovery, which we had more than 100% recovery, even despite, some of the infrastructure stuff that we're doing, looking at now and what we're looking at in the future, we are able to meet cost recovery. Users were able to fund the budget for this fiscal year. Your question now is about infrastructure and the amount of money that we need to put into the system, right? Mm-hmm. So ultimately in the future as well, meeting the goal is we're going to do those infrastructure improvements and we're getting enough recovery by our rates, which in some cases you have municipalities, for example, you put a lot into the system, whatever. I don't want to say you don't have a professional looking at it, but sometimes they underestimate, right? You're expecting to get certain revenue, you have these expenses, but you don't get enough revenue to meet those expenses. So then you have to augment that. Either you have drastic increases in rates, which obviously hurt the users, or you're, and most often not, but you did have some communities have to offset water or wastewater enterprise funds with general fund revenue. And that's what you don't want to be in the business of doing. Anytime you have an enterprise fund, you want it to be self-sustaining, which is probably the simplest answer. Lori, I tried a simple response to that. Is there anything you want to add to that in case it was too technical?
Yeah, no, no, you're spot on. I think almost everyone on this call probably knows that the town historically didn't address its rates for saving for infrastructure over the, last 10 or 20 years. And I think, 2, 3 years ago, we did see that, or 2 years ago, I think we saw a sewer rate increase of 50% because it hadn't been adjusted in so long. So yeah, it's very painful and tough to implement these things. But there's a lot of work and infrastructure needs as well. So this is what we're trying to accomplish with when we say, well, what are our goals? We need some money put aside for our projects and our infrastructure so that, we're not borrowing millions of dollars to try, you know, to go at it with that. So
I think one other thing, realizing Derek, I think the goal moving forward, especially since I've become the town manager, I can't speak to what decisions have been made in the past, but I can speak to you what my decisions are and with this team and this council is that we need to make critical investments in our infrastructure system. And I think, people have grappled with a lot of decisions and have made whatever respective decisions they've made. Once again, I can't speak to it, but for me, really intent on investing in this infrastructure. But at the same time, I'm cognizant of what impact that has on ratepayers. So, could the water, budget grown by 30% this fiscal year? Absolutely. We have a demand for that. We need to make those improvements. We need bandwidth. We need more staff, et cetera. But we are not trying to just minimize costs. We're making improvements. One, a new treatment system that's being done. We're applying for some other grants. We're looking at Vernon Street well development. We're not looking at only just addressing water quality in a silo or water capacity in a silo. We're looking at it together. So we're trying to be very strategic about that, trying to be very transparent about that, but also making sure and being transparent. There's costs related to that. And there's tens of millions of dollars in costs related to that. So we're trying to be strategic over time, which means increased rates. And that's what that rate structure that you saw looks like. It shows rates progressing over time. There shows you the expenses and what we're hoping for recovery to help pay for that infrastructure improvement, if that makes sense.
It does. I guess what I didn't see is the expenses in there. Was that in the presentation?
No, that's part of the budget.
Yeah.
The budget. The water rates are predicated off of the budget. So these
Right.
water rates are taking into account what the budget was that was passed, and these are the water rates that we have to implement to
To achieve that revenue. Makes
Yes.
sense. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
I'm gonna hop in quickly and then get to Rig and John. But Justin, can you maybe speak to, I know the last time we spoke, there was 2 pending pieces of legislation that had money set aside for some infrastructure improvements for us. I believe there was a supplemental budget that had money in it from our state delegation. And then also we were tracking in the state budget. There were some amendments filed on our behalf. Do you know the current status of those?
Yes. So we've had a variety of things. I don't know if I don't remember, so I'll just go through the whole list of some of the water stuff that we're doing. The town, we've been advocating, we received a $2 million grant from DEP. It's called Emerging Contaminants Grant. So we got $2 million to help offset the cost of the work that we're doing at 10A and 10B for that project. That project's budget is about $6.1 million for this phase of that project, and $2 million of that grant will be utilized to mitigate that. I've been working with our state representatives, which includes Representative Gallagher and State Senator Driscoll. So we've put in some amendments for environmental bond bill and the economic bond bill related to water or wastewater infrastructure system improvements. Environmental bond bill hasn't got out of Senate yet, so I think House is still waiting on that. But we had, we put in a request for $2.5 million into that, so we'll see how that progresses. I've met with Congressman Keating's office as well as Senator Markey and Senator Warren's office. We put in some earmark requests for the federal earmark legislative process for water infrastructure improvements. So we put a variety of things in place to try to offset the cost. In addition to that, the town is has applied for what they called One Stop for Growth grant, grant opportunities, specifically for water infrastructure, for well development at the Verdon Street wells. I think we put in $2 million for that. We put in an allocation for design potential for work with the Brockton desalination plant, as well as other infrastructure improvements. So we're doing everything we can to get as much federal and state resources to help offset the costs and what we're trying to do for our water system.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, but thank you. And Justin and Lori, maybe perhaps what you were just talking about, Justin, may have answered the question that I'm gonna ask. With respect to BSU and the prison, both being state entities, what you just highlighted, are any of what you've outlined in terms of the environmental bond and all the initiatives that you and the team have initiated. Does that involve the prison and BSU as well, given that they're two large entities that I would imagine consuming and using a lot of water? And then the other question that I have also, as part of our cost sharing sort of initiative with the town of Rainham, specifically around the school, is there a cost sharing component around water as well? Given that we are housing, Rainham students in our town. I guess I'm just trying to understand if the agreement consists any of that.
I'll tackle the first one, the latter question first. No, I don't believe there's any cost share. Well, no, I don't believe. I know there isn't a cost share related.
I would have to see like how the water, I mean, the Bridgewater schools that are billed to the school district, but I'm not sure if Rainham gets any share of the high school costs. I'd have to check with the.
I haven't seen anything based on our
District.
assessments that come to us that reflect that, but we can follow up with that. I think we can do that for you, Rick, but I haven't seen anything related to that. In regards to your former question, absolutely. For example, I talked with, President Clark, one about water conservation, et cetera, but partnering with them saying, hey, you are one of our major users of water. We both have the ear of the state. Let's work and collaborate and advocate together. And that has been occurring. So I appreciate President Clark's collaboration and leadership, putting his team with that. We've had joint conversations with the state. We had, Secretary of Livable Communities come, and we met jointly with them and talked with them about what Bridgewater is facing. So there is collaboration there. In terms of the prison, I won't say no, there isn't, but I do put this out. The prison, and sometimes the prison doesn't utilize the town's water or wastewater. It's got its own infrastructure systems in place for that. However, a lot of attention is being given to water, and rightly so. But wastewater, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there too, tens of millions of dollars too. And Bridgewater State is also utilizing not only our water, our wastewater as well. So there have been conversations with the prison about potentially moving BSU's usage for wastewater to the prison. So those conversations have happened. They haven't happened at the water end, because one of the ramifications of that, even though that question has been asked a lot, is if BSU as one of our higher tier users, they are tier 3 users, and you see their rate, they pay a lot more being a tier 3 user. If they weren't a user of our water rates, then naturally those costs would then shift to all the residents and users, and that would be a pretty significant shift. So that's something we're balancing. But I think that addressed your question, Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask. I know last year, from 25 to 26 was a pretty significant rate increase. Looking out at the presentation, at least for the 5/8 residential rate, we've got like a 5-year CAGR of 19.85% per year. How confident are we in these projections with these rates to, kind of ensure that, we'll be able to cover the costs of the system, but as well as cover the costs of the infrastructure needs that's imperative that we do, so that, in 2028, say that, we don't get hit with another unexpected 75% increase in rates.
Yeah. John, so I'm going to share my screen one more time because I think it's important to highlight this, and I think it's been lost a couple of times. But if I share the screen, so what I imagine what you're taking obviously a look at, you're obviously looking at usage tables. You're looking at the $25, the fixed rate there in comparison to 42 and 46. What people aren't realizing is that there's the component about usage as well. And so these different tiers and the levels that we put there, you actually see a reduction in comparison to what the fiscal year 25 was. And so it's really important. Current structure is 70% of revenues are from volumetric charges and 30% from fixed costs. This is this element here. So you're getting more of your revenue from this area than you do from this area. And we're very strategic about that because we wanted to shift the burden to our larger users of water who take a lot more volume of water. So in fact, under this rate system that we've implemented, the average user of water is paying less under this rate structure than they would have in the prior rate structure. And you'll see that on this page 7, where it just reflects that, about 7% less. So naturally, when you have to spend more, because someone prayed, well, my water bill didn't go down. You're saying I saved money, but my water bill didn't go down. Well, the expenses still increased. But if we had the prior rate structure, the bill would have been higher than what it is in this case. And in terms of your question, how confident are we in it? Well, part of the reason, one of the decisions that I made was I want to look at this on an annual basis. Sometimes people come in, they'll have the professional take a look at it, and then they don't bring them back in after a year or 3. They come back every 3 or 5 years, something like that. One, I said, we've got a lot of work to do and a lot of things in the pipeline. I want to look at an annual basis. And so we did a review of what we did last year. We met the target. Water revenue projected to be at 102.4% of the target that we expected. So I would say that I don't have a crystal ball, John. I can't predict every single thing that's going to emerge, but I do know there's a lot of different things nobody was expecting this year, for example. But we were able to rise and meet the occasion for this fiscal year. Our budget increased unexpected costs for next year. So we're confident that it will meet, but we're going to evaluate again next year. And we'll be having this conversation with you all and the community and the council. And hopefully we'll have the same results as we did this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, being where you were at with these targets and being at 2.4 for the water and, 98 for the sewer, I mean, that's really good. And I think, I just want to make sure that there's confidence in this plan to, hopefully avoid any unpredicted rate spikes in the future. And, we're year 1 into this, so far so good. Hopefully we've got a lot of continued success on this. So.
Yeah, we did. I can just add on that. We did, discuss when we did the presentation last year of adopting the payment schedule, but, Justin was pretty adamant that no, let's look at it year to year and adjust we'll follow the model, but we're going to look at it every year and make sure that, if it didn't need to say we did way above, we wouldn't, increase like we were, but every year we're going to come in front of you and say, this is what we think the increases are going to look like based on that last year, what we're projecting, and then what's actually happening. So we just want to take it like that, for, just to make sure we're transparent.
Derek?
Yeah, just one last question for me. Like, how many companies are in that third tier? Is it 10, 100, 50? Is it a big number?
I don't know. I'd have to get that, but
We
I
have to
guess
follow and give it
my
to.
thought is like, should there be a tier four that really
Um,
looks at the people that are just absolutely ginormous that we're all talking about that seem to consume a lot more than everybody else, and they end up paying their fair share, you know? So that's the reason for the question.
yeah, I'd have to look back. I know the consultant, Mr. Fetter, he, had a list of all of the companies, and I know I don't have it in front of me, so.
We have it for our team. We can follow up with that, Derek. I can't have the water group follow up with you. I do know that we've had some conversation regarding that as well, because one of the things we talked about was making sure equity and obviously making sure the lower tier users had a little bit of relief and everything. The one thing that I respect about Raftelis and the work that Toby does, they look at national and regional standards. And
Yeah.
so they put this tier system. They said, this is what we recommend is competitive, it's fair, it's equitable, it meets the target of, hey, your average users will have some relief. But at the end of the day, we have to invest in our infrastructure system, and it requires a significant amount of money. So that is one part we aren't going to compromise on. But in terms of a tier four or whatever, this was the recommendation they gave to us. It's definitely something that, we can talk with Toby and also provide the information you asked for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from members of the committee? Do I hear any motions?
I feel bad. We always put it on the experienced folks to put the motions forward, but I will.
So you motion to recommend?
Yes.
Excellent. Do I have a second? From John. Thank you. Josh, can you take a roll call?
Dana,
Yes.
Derek Bennett,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
John, thank you. Derek Sylvia,
Aye.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. And now we're on to sewer rates. And I expect a lot of similar questions, and we've talked about a lot of the crossover already.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I would add before we get to any of your questions is wastewater sewer. It's got the same sort of, it's an enterprise system. So we operate in the same manner for them. However, the sewer system, there's a lot less users on town sewer than there are water. So for example, there's a lot of mandated work that we need to do from the federal government. These rate jumps are a little bit more than water, particularly because of the amount of users on there. I think a lot of people are aware we have a lot of people that are on septic systems, et cetera. So a lot less users on our sewer system than water.
Any questions from members of the committee?
I do have one other thing to add with this order. There was a typo on the order. The tiers were typed in the corner, the same as the water, but they are a little different. I did send the numbers to Josh. The price and the price. It's just the tier so on the bottom of the.
So the utilization numbers are different to determine the tiers?
Yeah, it should read 0 to 15 for the first tier, cubic feet, and then 15 to 30, and then anything over 30. Oh, there, thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Josh.
You're welcome.
So if you go down all the way, you can see how it was. I mean, no, that's not
No.
how it's showing. It's showing.
How it's in the order that you guys have in your packet. On the second
Yeah.
tier, for example, it
Yeah.
says 15 to 100. And so our change is it needs to be 15 to 30, and then 30 plus is the third tier.
Yes,
That's essentially
thank
what
you.
our adjustment is.
Thank you. I was struggling.
Justin, you mentioned that a lot of users are on septic systems. Has there been any research and does this consultant have thoughts on like expanding our capacity so that your base gets larger in terms of
Oh.
revenue?
We'd love to get that larger. We don't have the capacity in the
Yeah.
plant. Yeah,
There's a lot that goes into that.
yeah.
There's a lot, and I think we can have a long conversation about that. You know, I honestly don't know how to respond to that, Dana. You know, we're going to be spending pretty significant amount of money for our wastewater system to become compliant with the federally mandated orders that are placed on the town. So really focus on that. We're trying to focus and make sure it's a, you know, productive system, but we're also trying to look at bandwidth, right? And what we can do to add capacity outside of, you know, the existing users. And that's why I've sort of intimated that, hey, we're looking at BSU potentially shifting to the prison. So we could expand sewer capacity, you know, for maybe more commercial development, et cetera. So we're looking at it. It's not an easy answer. It's not an easy solution to do that because there are ramifications. I say, you know, I think last year, Lori, it was a very significant jump for sewer for them last year. And so anytime you're going to reduce your users, it's going to lead to a very significant increase for rates for the users on there. So it's not an easy answer, not an easy solution either. I see a hand raised, so I think we'll ask a question. But one thing that was on that slide too that we talked about was there is still work. Obviously, as I mentioned before, on an annual basis, we're looking at this for water and wastewater. But some of the work that we plan on doing further, and it's really important, is looking at updating our connection charges. One, to ensure equitability with our users and potentially new users. You know, the town has added customers to its system. So we got to make sure that we're getting cost recovery on that end too. So that's something that I've told Raftellus that I will work on with them. And we've talked with the council about that. That's something that will be part of that discussion for us next year as well. But Chris, I know I
Thank you. Chris?
Yes, I just have two questions. Just curious to know, do we have a capacity issue with the sewer? Is that part of one of the issues, or is it
No.
more so getting users to use?
I think and I don't want to just throw a number without giving you the exact right number, but you know, I think we're close to 80% usage right now. So you know, my job and how I look at this is we have to focus on today, but we also have to focus on tomorrow too. And I don't like to be reactionary, so we have to look at that, right? And we have to be cognizant of where we're at today.
Gotcha. Okay. And then just curious to know if there's any thought or thinking about how to maybe encourage users to hook up to sewer instead of relying on the septic.
I don't
I
have a
don't know.
response to it, Chris. I said there's
I don't know.
a
Yeah,
lot.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
process really is or
Yeah.
how much investment the town would have to make, but if you get a sudden wave of people trying to hook up to utilize it, maybe that can help offset some costs or boost up revenue.
What I don't want to do is I don't want to push our capacity to where we're being reactionary to it. So, like I said, I know we're spending a lot of attention to water. You know, I want to focus on sewer as well. And so we need to do some work regarding that. We need to do some planning and have some strategy regarding that. And so I really care about making sure we protect our capacity.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee?
Yeah, can I jump in, Dana?
Yeah, sure.
Just, I guess a question like 80%, do you know what most towns run at? Like, is that high? I mean, that seems pretty good to me. You don't want to sure to be at an overcapacity position. And then I did, just to follow up, I think I leverage off what I think Chris was asking. I thought what Dana was asking, but is getting more users into the system better for the town? And I'm still not sure, and maybe you're not sure yet, Justin, either.
At the basis of like financially, it's dependent on the question is it's not a difficult question for me, but I would say this. As a resident in town, let me use water, for example. All right, because water is obviously a big conversation in town. I think people have talked about water moratoriums, et cetera, different things regarding that. Well, without a new user base to help offset some of the costs associated with the infrastructure investments you need to make, who's going to bear the brunt of those costs? The users on the system. So for some people, having more users diffuses the cost, it lowers the bill. I won't see that huge impact or something. Let's say you had 100 million, I'm not saying we're doing $100 million, but $100 million of new projects that go in the system. And let's say they're hitting the books tomorrow. Well, if you don't have other users to help offset those costs and get other revenue, well, the users on that system are going to pay for it, and it's going to be an expensive hit. So yes, you do want to add more users, but you have to balance. You have to balance because capacity, what you don't want to have is where your capacity gets strained because you're just adding users, but you haven't made the decisions or made the planning to make sure your infrastructure system is growing at the same time as able to handle that capacity that's demanded on it. So it's a balance. So absolutely, do we want more people on our sewers? Absolutely. But I don't want to be in the situation. I'm not a similar situation with water. We're being very reactionary and we're in a water emergency. I want it planned accordingly and gradually implemented so it's done over the right course of time. So absolutely, do we want to add users? Yes, that's without a doubt. It makes sense. It has to be done in a coordinated fashion. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess I'm interpreting that 80% usage as that's pretty high. You're not comfortable saying we should push that to 90 and get a lot more connections and grab some revenue that way.
Yeah, I would say that. I'm not comfortable pushing it 100% or something like that. Yeah, I'm not comfortable doing that. But we'll strategically look at it, and I know Lori wants to add to it.
Yeah, plus the cost of putting the sewer lines down, right? So it's a big project to make sure we're planning it properly, and I that's what we want to do. We want to really look at everything carefully, for infrastructure before we go trying to get people on the system.
John?
Yeah, I was just gonna make a suggestion, as maybe in the future as we're planning, and if there's certain areas of town that do not have the infrastructure for sewer, as we're going through and we're updating the roads and doing those sorts of things, you time those projects
absolutely
to be at the same time, and then potentially offer certain incentives for residents to opt in to being part of that sewer program. It's short-term loss for a long-term gain. Something like that, maybe.
You exactly hit the nail on the head with that.
Any other questions, or do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend the sewer rates with the modification on the update for the order.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Excellent. Josh, can we get a roll call?
Dana,
Yes.
Derek,
Aye.
Bennett, Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Okay.
John,
Aye.
Derek Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, now on to the next, which is Order OFY 26-069, and this is the transfer to fund the collective bargaining agreement. Am I correct? And this is funding the agreement we voted on at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago?
Yes, this is one component of the retro that wasn't part of the calculation that we did. So we're obviously adhering to our collective bargaining agreement. Want to make sure we, adhere to that agreement, and so. Sorry. Oh, I thought there was a question, but yes, I think that's a good enough summary, Dana.
Any questions from members of the committee? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So made.
Are you motioning to recommend?
Yes.
Wonderful. Second, anyone?
Second.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Wonderful. I
John
got
beat me to it.
John. He beat you to it, Rig. Josh?
Dana,
Yes.
Derek Bennett,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John,
I
Derek Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, and now we are on to the next item on the agenda. This is to rescind the Plymouth Street Wells project loan order. Justin, can you talk about these next two together? Because I
Yeah.
think it kind of makes sense to talk about together. I know we have to vote on them separately, but as I was reading it, I was using them
That's exactly
together.
what I was gonna do. I think that makes
Okay.
sense. They're obviously separate orders or they're one and the same. So just a little brief background and Lori will chime in here and there a little bit as necessary. The original loan order, the council's authorized a $7.4 million allocation, I think in May of last year. So it was before I came on board. And it was related to the work at 10A and 10B. And what the initial plan was to, construct a water main and to be able to utilize wells 10A and 10B and pipe it to the Plymouth Street plant. However, since I've come on board, obviously looking at it with my team, looking at it with fresh set of eyes and with Apex, we made the adjustment thinking that people want to have a plan that's specifically at 10A, 10B. So the work that we're doing is building a new treatment plant. This is a permanent plant. I know people have gotten interchanged interim and different things like that. This will be a permanent plant for 10A and 10B to turn those wells online. And that work will include addressing iron and manganese, which I think everyone's aware we have in this basin that we're in. We're high in iron and manganese for our water. The levels at these 10A and 10B are higher in iron and manganese, so we're going to treat that. But also address PFAS, which we don't do at the Carver Street plant and the High Street plant at the moment. But this will allow us to address both of them here at this site. So what we're doing is we're rescinding that prior authorization because we didn't do any loan authorization regarding that. And we're putting a new authorization that reflects what the plan is now, which is that new treatment plant. It also is, after speaking with the team, there's other work that we want to do that we think is necessary. For example, we want to be proactive about water main replacements. We had, I think, on Main Street, we've had several water breaks this year. Instead of just allowing these to continue, let's fix it. Let's address it. So that's one of the things that this loan authorization could help support. I also want to look at adding additional water supply outside of 10A and 10B. So what work can we do for the Vernon Street wells that we already have a permit for? So obviously it increases that loan authorization just slightly more, $1.1 million, but it gives us the flexibility to do a little bit more work than what was initially planned and what I think is absolutely necessary. I will put the caveat to that as well, though, that the town applied for SRF loan funding before. We didn't get it because that fund was oversubscribed. Bridgewater is not a unique community in the sense that a lot of communities in the Commonwealth, and not even Commonwealth, but nationwide, are grappling with water infrastructure challenges. But we got the $2 million grant. That we did get approval for. We're in the process of doing reimbursements for that. So that will help offset some of those costs. And that means more work can be done for the water system. So that's the context of the loan
Justin,
order.
what's the timing on that $2 million? Because I know the state fiscal year is about to end.
Yeah. It's a reimbursement process. You can go retro. We've gotten some invoices already that we can apply those funds to. So I'm not too concerned about that. And Lori can speak a little bit further
But
about
does the
that.
funding expire June 30th?
No,
That's
Yeah.
helpful.
it's coming from the feds. Mass DP is, let's say, the auxiliary, the intermediary in
Yeah.
terms of those funds, but it is a federal grant that we received.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. Yeah,
John?
we're gonna spend that 2 million probably by the end of next week. So we'll get that.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, it was 7.4, it's now 8.5. We got a $2 million. So so we're in the whole grand scheme of things, we're anticipating like an additional $3.1 million in work, where previously was just 7.4.
I
Does that
know how
make
you're looking at that with a $2 million grant.
Yeah.
When I was putting the loan authorization before, I think on timing, we weren't assured that we were to get that grant. We were still waiting for approval. So that's a bit of it. But,
Okay.
in this infrastructure system, there's more work that wants to be done. For example, that water main replacement, like I said, those breaks. So yes, in theory, I understand your frame of question. With the $2 million grant, that's offsetting the cost of that project, but you're still asking for more. So yes, you could do some more work.
Yeah, so I mean, it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's almost like a 40% increase in potential capital funding for water infrastructure repairs, between the $2 million grant and an additional 1.1 million in loan. Okay, and I know that's probably just a fraction of what's needed at the moment, but it's a starting point.
I think that's a good way to frame it, John, is that there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. We obviously see our capital plan, I think, to the water master plan till 2040 outlines over 230 plus $1 million of work that needs to go in the infrastructure system. But these are things that with our bandwidth, where we're at right now, we can tackle these things and we should. That's what I've told the council. I think it's prudent to go after these things rather than just continue to allow it to mount up. Let's tackle what we can, and keep making improvements as quickly, as efficiently, and as cost effective for the users as possible.
And sustainable.
And sustainable. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is
I know
this
some of the other.
additional? Oh, sorry.
You go ahead. I know there were some other questions. People asked about PFAS settlements. If the town has been a part of PFAS settlement, we absolutely have been. And we are looking at extracting every penny possible as part of that settlement process. But go ahead, Dana, you were going to ask a question.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask if this increase is affordable under the capital plan.
Susie?
So, and I guess this is just apologies for my ignorance on muni capital planning, but assuming we're increasing from 7.4 to 8.5. And as John mentioned, it's really now a $10.5 million project in total when you count the $2 million we already got. But is this additional increase affordable within our capital plan, or is this sort of set to the side because it's from the Clean Water Trust?
Yeah. Lori's going to chime in on this further, but our debt capacity, particularly where we are as a community, we're an AA3 community. It is a part of municipal finance. Can we afford it? Is your question? Can we afford it? Yes, we can afford it. This isn't going to be, we will apply for SRF funding again. We're going to apply for a lot of different funds. As I mentioned before, a lot of
SRF stands for
State Revolving Fund, and water specifically for this case. We're going to be applying for that fund. We're going to be applying for grants and earmarks. But we're operating as if we're not getting those funds, right? If we do, that will minimize the costs or on our users. But like I said before, it's work that we need to do. So we got to move forward on the time basis there. Lori, want to chime in?
Yeah, no, I think, you've kind of gave all that information. I can also share, the original order for 7.4, we probably would have had to come and rescind it anyway because, that project went through, it takes a lot of engineering and Danny, the applications for the SRF, the state revolving funds, and getting on their project plans to even get a state loan and state loans are low interest. They're like 1.5%, 2% loans. So, which we were on the list with that to apply for it, but we weren't approved for that. So our loan order said, it has language in there. So we probably would have had to rescind it and revote it anyway, because, that particular project as it was written and designed wasn't going to be able to fund that way. So that all being said, with Justin's new loan, it has that language that allows us to put any of these projects in the plan to apply for any state revolving fund, low interest loans, and apply for any grants. And if we have to borrow it with the general obligation bond. So we have that flexibility to like he said about, Main Street, there's that same Main keeps on you know, we don't have enough money in retained earnings to pay for it. So now we have the authorization to go get a short-term loan or whatever it is to fix it. And we won't have to come back and forth to the council and to you guys. And for each thing, we have that flexibility to fix it now and not wait, until we get another authorization or something. So.
Thank you. Derek, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. And I put my hand down because I thought it was the same question you asked, but I'm not sure. So, like, is it in the capital plan? I guess is what I'm curious about, or was my question is?
Everything that we're doing is in plan and stages. So if you look at the water capital plan,
Yeah.
that Main Street main is in there. It's I don't know exactly what project it is, but it might not have been for 26 or 27. Maybe we have it in 28 because that's what we do when we can't fix something. We push it out a year, and then as we push it out, the costs go up, and so we're always just like pushing it away and everything gets higher and higher. So, but yeah, the mains and the replacements are in there. Just like, all the roadways are in there and we don't have the funding to fix all the roads too. So
You might be pulling some forward, I guess. Is that
Yeah.
the way to
exactly.
think
So
about this?
instead
Is
of
some-
waiting, right, 2 years from now to do what we said, we're gonna take what we can afford and maybe shorten, we can't do the whole road, but we can maybe do $1 million and fix that problem. That keeps coming back.
I'm gonna give you a visual that I think might be helpful. I have the capital plan here and I can show you an example of kind of what we're directly dealing with. Because one of the questions was, trying to coordinate, if you're doing roadway work, do you
Right.
do sewer work? Do you do water work? That's exactly what we try to do. And Main Street is a good example of it. So this is the capital plan and it is small, so I'll blow it up as best as possible. Main Street. Main Street, we know we need to do drainage in Main Street. We know we need to do the roadways in Main Street. So on the capital plan, these water lines, to replace those water lines, because we don't have the funding to do the roadways. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to get in the road, replace the water mains, and you can't do the roads, right? So that's something the town has grappled with in the past. So that project for Main Street on the capital plan is looking like 2030. But where I'm at this point, I've had 3 water main breaks this year, I think, here on Main Street. I can't wait to 2030. Now, I don't have the funds for the roads, but that can't wait. So it means an adjustment of that capital plan. That's why I'm proposing to move it up forward, right? And so we try to be strategic. We're trying to manage limited financial resources, but, addressing what I consider critical infrastructure. So that's why, for example, the Main Street, one definitely, because I already heard people, well, we need to do the roads. I know we need to do the roads. That's why it's on there to do roadways and drainage, but we don't have the funding to do $5.2 million. And at that time of roadways, when we only have $1 million essentially of Chapter 90 funds, right? Forget where the rest of my train of thought was going there. I think I'll just keep emphasizing there's a lot of work that we need to do with our water infrastructure system, and I'm going to be very pragmatic and be very today and tomorrow focused in tackling those and trying to be financially responsible. But at the end of the day, we do need to invest in our infrastructure system. So that's what I'm committed to doing and trying to improve it.
So one more question for me, Justin, I think.
Yep.
So in my world, if I'm pulling 8 million forward in my old job, then I'm pushing 8 million out of this current budget, right? So if you're pulling something from 28, I'm talking private sector, right? So help me understand. Doesn't sound to me like you need to push anything out at this point. Is that because of the way it's being funded? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm trying to figure out how to respond to it because I've worked in the private sector as well. So I know what your point is. Lori, you want to try to tackle first while I try to come with my train of thought? Do you have something for him, or I can continue to reflect on it?
Well, I think, what's the priority of the community, right? We know everything is.
Okay.
So when we put it we put this plan out for the public and the council, and
Yeah.
you know, again, Justin mentioned he can't go back and try to understand why some of these decisions weren't made before now over the last 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, let me just try
Yeah.
to rephrase my question because I'm not asking whether we need to do it or not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the funding. Like, is this
Yeah.
committee approving $8 million more than we thought we were going to spend?
Yeah, no.
So I think to
That's what I
answer,
think.
if I could hop in on that one, I think so the delta that we're approving here is $1.1 million. But the
Yeah,
but the
between the
bigger
rescinding,
between so
yeah.
we're rescinding 7.4 and then we're adding 8.5.
Okay.
So it's 1.1 million. But what John's point was actually we got $2 million from the state, so it's $8.5 million on the town's budget, and then it's $2 million of the state, so it's $10.5 million for the total project. And I think just from a state lens, what I think you're trying to get at is like there's gonna be some other projects are gonna slip, right? So when you develop a capital plan, you have like the best ideas and the best intentions to get everything done in a year, and naturally there's some slippage of that. And so I think, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, what we're seeing here is there was some underutilization somewhere else, maybe not a full project that needed to be pushed, but we were able to sort of pull forward some available funds here.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah, I
fair,
think-
Justin?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you gave a good explanation. It really is 1.1 because with that 7.4, remember, we had put that for the project solely specifically for 10A and 10B to get it to the treatment plant there. So
Yeah.
if we received no grants, if we received we didn't get on the SRF loan funding program, which we did it, potentially would have had paid 7.4, even more than that. But we're increasing the authorization, going to 8.5, and we can do more projects because we got the grant. Essentially, if we do get more grants or get additional no interest or low interest funding, then we can do even more water infrastructure improvement. So are we pushing something out for it? No, I would say we're actually pushing projects forward because we were able to get some of those grants. We were able to try to do those earmarks. I mean, if we had the bandwidth capable, we would be even more water infrastructure improvements we would try. So I think in terms of your question, Derek, where I was grappling with, because if you move capital up further, then maybe a capital project that you're planning for the next fiscal year you can't do because you moved it forward.
Yeah.
I think that was the base of your question. That is not what's going to happen here. We're moving project forward, but we're still going to be able to do the other infrastructure improvement projects that we're going to look at. For example, the Verdon Street wells. I think we're going to be looking at, Carver's and High Street plant, potentially PFAS, even though they were looked at, outlier years. We're going to try to move that forward. It's not going to cause us to not be able to move forward on the infrastructure improvement project, if that was really what your question was.
Yeah, I was trying to find out what are we horse trading here, but it sounds to me like we're not. We're going to be able to pull stuff forward, and still hit the rest of the capital plan. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things about with the enterprise fund that's a little bit different from the general fund. Like a general fund, it might have been a little bit more complicated or more difficult to do that. I'll give the roadways as an example of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going. I forgot we were in the water talk, so.
And so, sorry, I lost my train of thought again. There's a lot going on there. Now, general fund, a little bit more difficult to navigate that with versus the enterprise fund. We have a little bit more flexibility there regarding those projects. There was something else I was going to say. I don't know. Sorry.
John?
Okay.
Yeah, so my last question from the loan, as far as the loan, is there a loan that's already are there specific terms that we're looking at? Is there is there flexibility on payback? I know you said it's a low interest loan. Is there any accounting wizardry we could do to this increase, spread it over a little bit of a longer term so that you have less of a run rate impact to your capital budget? Have we given much thought to that?
Yeah. Lori, you tackle this one. I mean, they can know about the work that you do along with Scott. We have, financial consultants. With the infrastructure systems, you have a little bit more flexibility on rates or years of funding. So Laura, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, so the loan authorization gives us, that the appropriation to begin and go out and contract the work. So what we do is sometimes we supplement it with retained earnings, we supplement grants as much as we can. So we segregate any project in its own fund and then we look at the cash flow. So we can short-term borrow until the project is complete so that we know what the the ending cost of the whole project itself. So we're constantly looking at, we got our treasurer collector, Scott, works closely with, like Justin said, with our bond counsel. So we're looking at whatever we can do to keep any kind of short-term borrowing to a minimum as well. But it can extend out till we complete the project and we know exactly what the end result. And when we authorize does not mean that we're going to borrow that full amount, because there's a lot of times we only borrow up to what we, say we spent $5 million, right? So we're going to come back to you and we'll have to rescind the 3 million. And then we usually do it when we're borrowing for something else. So, it kind of works in those ebbs and flows. But yeah, we are constantly looking at how we're going to, save the town and spend the money in the most, the least expensive way. So
Yeah. And so in the end, this is a basically an allocation or setting aside the ability to spend up to this amount within. So there's some rules and there's a bounding box that you're able to operate and have some flexibility within there.
perfectly said. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank
Okay.
you. You want to come work for municipal government? You got it.
Any other questions from members of the committee? All right, so we're going to need to do 2 motions and 2 roll call votes because there are 2 orders here. So the first order is to rescind the Plymouth Street Wells project. Do I hear a motion for that one?
So moved to rescind.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, second.
Awesome. Josh?
Dana,
Yes.
Derek Bennett,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
thank you. Chris,
Aye.
John,
Yes.
Derek Sylvia,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
And then the next one is the loan order for the water system improvements.
Make a motion. We recommend.
Okay, do I have a second?
So made.
Excellent. Josh?
Dana,
Yes.
Derek Bennett,
Yes.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John,
Yes.
Derek Sylvia,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. We don't have anything for F listed. Does anyone have any additional items for discussion?
Can I just I wanted to answer Mr. Raymond's question on the PFAS. So he asked if the town was involved in the class action suits, and we are involved. And we are part of, a bunch of communities that are in those PFAS. So I know there's been some notifications that there was an expiration date coming, but we were already clearly one of the proponents or defendants in the big class action. So
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Any
Sure.
other items for discussion? Rig?
So just real quickly, I know we have a number of new members, and welcome newer members. I guess what I wanted to just bring up, Dana, is the previous committees from with which we started. I would recommend that we dissolve them and then kind of start from scratch if that is the case, given that we have a number of new folks.
I think, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we have to do sort of like a re-upping of everything in July. Is that right?
Yeah,
So like,
reorganization is in July.
yeah, so I think the timing is really good, Rig, but that had been on my mind too. I know I also wanted to talk to folks about meeting time. We have new membership. We want to make sure we find a time and date that works well for most people's schedules. I appreciate people moving it back to 7:30 tonight to accommodate me. But I want to make sure we just sort of survey everyone so we have a time that people can consistently attend. So I think we'll talk about all of that in July and we'll get that on the agenda for when we do the reorganization as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Dana, I want to take advantage of one opportunity too, and hopefully you're going to have some new members coming from the town manager recommendation. I do have to go through a different process than other people. I know the town clerk can just decide her appointments. They go through assistant advisory committee, et cetera, but we are interviewing people this week. So hopefully I have some new members joining you very soon from my end too.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate the thoughtful discussion. And Justin and Lori and Josh and Ashley, thank you again, as always, for your time and expertise. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Dana, one more other thing.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And I know I want people to go off. We've had a long day too. But Lori brought up a good point. One of the things that I'm going to announce tomorrow at the council is that I'm going to have a water forum really to talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing with our water infrastructure system. I've had various town manager forums, but I know this is on people's minds. So I want to at least loop you on there just in case we don't meet again. That's going to be probably June 23rd or something at the end of the month. But I would keep that on your mind because there was a lot of great questions about the water system, and I want to make sure you guys are as informed. But when that's confirmed, I'll have Josh send that all to you guys as well.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, Justin, you're presenting to the town council tomorrow night on this?
Yeah, I was my town manager update. Water is listed on there, and so I'll give a water update. But I'm
Okay.
going to mention that we're going to have a water forum. I think it's important I try to be as transparent and open as possible. So I want people to be able to ask some questions and ask of our team outside of the normal council forum.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Lori. Good reminder.
I
Okay.
had some good questions, so.
Yeah, they did. This
Yeah.
was a good meeting. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right. Now can I have a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Motion to adjourn.
Excellent.
Second. I'll
Awesome.
second that.
Who
I
motioned it?
got Rig seconded. I think John motioned.
Yep.
Was that right?
Correct.
Dana,
Yes.
Derek, Bennett,
Yes.
Rig,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
John,
Yes.
Derek Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting's adjourned.
Have a great
Thank you,
night,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.